Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Thornton, Kevin McCurry.
1 2 1 2 1 2. Any better?
Turnovers. We had some transition situations where we had, I know, 3 situations where we had numbers in transition and didn't get anything.
How's this any better? 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Possessions that you really need to convert, especially on the road.
If I start utilizing injuries as an excuse, then our players are going to use excuses, and I'm anti-excuse. That's just, I don't like them. I don't want to hear about them.
Welcome into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary in studio, staying warm, cozy, and dry in our Sports Talk studios right on Main Street, where behind me and underneath me tonight they are celebrating the 150th anniversary of Sherman burning down the city. I don't know why they decided to celebrate having the town burned down, but they are. So there's going to be a party down Main Street. But there's a party every night on Main Street when we do Sports Talk here, the Main Street of Sports on South Carolina Radio Network. But we're not just here tonight. The basketball tour continues for the Corn Dog. He has been all over the state and beyond. He was in Charleston watching the Charleston Southern Bucks, in Spartanburg watching the Wofford Terriers. He was at Little John watching Clemson, in Atlanta watching Clemson. Now he's in Athens, Georgia, watching USC, or about to watch USC take on Georgia tonight. And Corn, some news just coming down. I actually got a rumbling of this in the press box over at the baseball game an hour or so ago that something might be coming down along these lines, and it's happened. A shorthanded Gamecock squad tonight against Georgia.
You're exactly right. I think that me and Casey Manning, a couple of Dillon County boys, might suit it up to help the Gamecocks tonight. They are definitely going to be shorthanded. They were already without Marcus Stroman because of health issues, and now, just a little while ago, Frank Martin announced the suspension for the rest of the regular season of Shamik Shepard and Demetrius Henry for violations of team rules, or, as he worded it here, conduct detrimental to the team. Martin said in the release, quote, "Our program is based on helping young people grow as individuals and helping them succeed off the court in life after college and winning on the court as members of our team. We have expectations and responsibilities that we ask our pay basis, and unfortunately, this has not happened. I will revisit the suspensions prior to the SEC tournament." Henry's played in 21 games, 6 points, 3.6 rebounds, a 19-game starter. Shepard, who's been dealing, of course, with a off-season knee injury from which he recovered quicker than expected, he's played in 7 games at 1.6 points, 1.3 rebounds, playing about 7 minutes per game in those games that he has played in, K-Mac. So it will definitely be a shorthanded USC team. Georgia will also be without one of their key players tonight as well, so a bunch of important cogs will be on the sideline for both teams.
All right, we'll be back. More from here in our Columbia studios, more from Athens, more from you. 800-956-7266. Reach out, grab a line. We'll take your phone calls tonight as well. Sports Talk continues.
What's up, man? How you doing? I'm sorry, what'd you say? Stay, man.
Sorry, I was talking to you with the talkback. I forgot you were on Google. What's up? Can you hear me?
right, how we doing?
Fine. Can you hear me?
How's it?
Yeah, it wasn't
Yes.
too bad actually.
Okay. Yeah, you had on. You must have had some internet connection issues last night as well with the Google.
Why you say that?
Well, if you go back to the video on the website last night, it picks it up in the second hour. Like the first hour wasn't recorded.
No. Remember, I dropped the
Or
first
like it
one
was-
and had to do the second one because we reconnected, so I had two parts.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, remember, we stopped the first one to try to get you a better connection.
Yeah. All right. Well, when K-Mac comes back, tell him I've got several pieces of news. He can update, I've got several pieces of news and some things we can talk about. You got the Clemson postgame still later on. There's Brownell, and it's all. I was the only South Carolina media person there. There's a guy from AP Georgia who was there, but I got one-on-one with Brownell and one-on-one with Ajukwa, and then me and him and Jordan Roper.
Where's that at?
It's on the website, unless K-Max pulled it down.
All right, I'll go yank it.
JJ Freer. Ah.
That's okay. I'm going to have to call you back because I'm doing my show. I'm actually over here in Athens for the basketball game. Can I give you a call tomorrow? Would that be okay? Good. Good. Happy birthday to who? You? Well, happy birthday. And I'll call you tomorrow morning. Thank you, buddy. Bye-bye.
I have 2 top of the 8th. Hey, State Man.
Yes.
Roll on Holbrook's post.
2 seconds, or hold tight.
All right.
All right, the big news coming down moments ago out of South Carolina basketball. Frank Martin suspending sophomore forward Demetrius Henry and freshman guard forward Shamik Shepard for the remainder of the regular season for conduct detrimental to the team. That will wipe them out for the rest of the regular season. Martin says he'll revisit their suspensions before the SEC tournament. Phil Kornblut is in Athens getting ready to watch Martin and his Gamecocks take on Georgia, one of the 3 teams they beat in the SEC slate this season. And a big blow. Corn, this is one of those things that it seems to happen to teams when it starts unraveling on the court and you're not winning games and the losses are piling up. Then things seem to start unraveling off the court a lot of times when you're talking about bad teams.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it'd be interesting to find out if we can, what it is that they did. It had to be something pretty decisively bad for him to give him a suspension for the remainder of the season, unless it's been some sort of ongoing situation ahead here today. Obviously, after meeting with the media yesterday, you were there. There was no talk of any situation like this involving players. There was the update on the the health. Shepard wasn't expected to play anyway tonight because of a knee that's bothering him of late. He's had the hand injuries, had the knee. Come to fruition today that pushed this over the top and led him to this announcement here just about 50 minutes before tip-off in Athens. Now, South Carolina, you mentioned they did beat Georgia in Columbia earlier in the year. The Gamecocks had one of their best defensive efforts of the season. They held Georgia to 22% shooting in that game. They were clamped down all over the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs played that game without their best player, Marcus Thornton, the big 6'8 forward, but he is back tonight in the lineup, 6'8", 235 pounds, and he is a load to say the least. But they will be without their best outside shooter in guard J.J. Frazier, who's got concussion issues going on and will not be available tonight for the Bulldogs. So they, too, are going to be a little bit shorthanded from that standpoint. But, Georgia, I'm sure in their mind, sitting at 16-8, 7-5, they're not giving up the dream of playing in the NCAA tournament. So for them, this is an absolute must-win. South Carolina, really, all they're playing for, they got nothing to play for. They're pretty much locked into playing the first day, the play-in round at the SEC tournament in Nashville. The rest of their games, they way out of that situation. But for the most part, they've got nothing left to play for but pride and trying to improve on what they did last year. It is possible that with a strong finish, they could improve on their record from last year, which Frank Martin could point to and say, hey, that's progress.
Yeah, and anything right now would be something that they can latch on to as progress, because people, and it's not all Frank Martin's fault. That you're talking about decades of pent-up frustration, and this season is playing out like so many others, Corn, over the past 30-plus years. I mean, it is a carbon copy, by and large, of a lot of bad Gamecock basketball since, the early part of the 70s to present. Sans a few aberration years here and there. That's been the crux of it. There's other things going on, too.
Yeah, you're right. Look.
You with us, Corn?
Yeah. I was saying that, didn't know if you lost me or not. I was saying that you're right. I mean, it's, look at South Carolina's history, and you know that they have not had to play a lot of meaningful games in February and March over much of the past. They haven't been there, and that's going to be the case again this year, just playing out the string. But in the case of Frank Martin, I think just trying to win as many games as they can and show some improvement so that when he goes out to recruit in the spring to get the last part of the recruiting class, of course, he's already got 2 players signed that he's very excited about. But to get that last piece of the recruiting class, perhaps a big man, you want to be able to show that, the program is making progress. It's got a chance to get to the NCAA tournament. That's the thing, that if you're South Carolina, when you're trying to recruit the top-level basketball player, you just can't show them that, hey, you come here, you're going to play in the NCAA tournament for 3 or 4 years of your career. They can't make that guarantee because they haven't proven that they can do that. Last night, being in Atlanta for the Clemson-Georgia Tech game, I mean, we're watching Clemson's season sort of fizzle out as well, K-Mac. They played very poorly last night against a bad Georgia Tech team that played well. Now, Georgia Tech played with a lot of confidence. They might have played their best game of the season last night, talking to some of the folks after the game. Their guards were outstanding. And, a Clemson team which prides itself on its defense and being able to clamp down on the opponent and not let the opponent enforce their will upon them offensively, Georgia Tech was able to do that last night against Clemson. Their guards were able to repeatedly beat the Tiger defenders off the dribble, get into the lane, get a shot or dish it off. They had 15 assists on 25 baskets last night. I mean, if you're a coach, you got to love that kind of balance with your assists to baskets. And Clemson couldn't respond. They never led in the game. They did tie it up at 32, and then Tech went on a 10-0 run and pulled away, and Clemson never could catch up from there. So that's the Tigers had to look at this stretch of the season after they had won 4 in a row and they knew they had a very good Notre Dame team coming to their place, but that was a chance to spring a big noticeable upset and a big RPI win, and they couldn't pull it off. But then you saw where you had some other winnable games, at your fingertips, and they have not been able to cash in except for that win over Virginia Tech. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They're back to 500 in ACC play and pretty much done as far as the NCAA tournament is concerned, and probably came back a bubble team for the NIT, and we all hope that bubble bursts because we don't want to have to deal with the NIT again if we don't have to.
I don't ever pull for anybody's bubble to burst, Corn. I'm not a bubble burster.
Well, I'm not pulling for them to lose, but I mean, really, do we want to endure another NIT run by anybody? 11 o'clock a.m. games on Sunday where they let everybody in for free and da-da-da-da. I mean, come on. Seriously.
I think South Carolina fans would love to have an NIT run. These are the same fans, and I said it back when it happened, when they had the back-to-back NIT championships and everybody was embarrassed. I said there's going to be a day when you wish you were going to be playing for an NIT championship, and I think that day is right now. They would buy into an NIT championship run right now, something to feel good about. But, yeah, that was a disappointing loss for Clemson last night. That's the first time in a minute Georgia Tech has knocked off the Tigers, 10 straight losses against Clemson going into that game?
That is correct. First win over Clemson since January of 2010. And they played very well. I got to wonder about the future of their coach, Coach Gregory, there at Georgia Tech. He's not getting it done. And looking at their team, typically Tech recruits extremely well, and they have a talented team, but that team doesn't, at least to my eye, I don't watch them every game, just saw them the other night. They don't appear to be the talented type of team that Georgia Tech normally puts on the floor. So I got to wonder about that situation moving forward there at Georgia Tech. They do have a beautiful building to recruit to, I'll tell you that. I was very impressed by their new pavilion there at Georgia Tech. And, again, we talked about
Yeah, looks like Corn has faded out there at the Stegman Coliseum. The Gamecocks and Bulldogs will tip things off in about 40 minutes or so, and Corn will have that one covered. We'll have full coverage of that on our website, sportstalksc.com, a site where you can get all kinds of great news and information, audio, interviews, videos. It's all there at sportstalksc.com. Also, a link to listen to this here show live and in color. You can even watch it live and in color with our video stream. And you can follow us on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Like us on Facebook at Sports Talk Radio Network. Search that out on your Facebook browser. Okay, back with more news and notes we'll pass along here from Columbia and from Athens. Sports Talk rolls along.
Hey, Corn, can you hear me?
Try something else. Maybe this will help. Oh. Did I drop out?
Yes.
Do I sound shaky now? Do I sound shaky now? Fake man. He ain't worth a flip. Stay, man.
Hey, Corn, are you there?
Yeah.
Give me the next closest affiliate to the Aiken area. If it's not Johnston, apparently Johnston's playing music right now.
Next closest one to Johnston would be probably
Barnwell?
Columbia, 1470. Allendale, Barnwell. Just tell them to search.
Barnwell. Hold tight. I'm about to come back up, Corn.
All right, am I solid?
All right, callers, be patient. We'll get to you momentarily. 800-956-7266. A couple people holding. A few people dropped off, so you got to be patient, but we will get to your phone calls as well. Kevin McCrary here in our downtown Columbia studios on Main Street. No professor tonight. Get well soon, Pro. He's not feeling well, under the weather. We hope to have him back once he's back on the up and up. Stormblood is in Athens, holding down the fort there, getting ready for some basketball. USC in Georgia will tip things off at the top of the hour. Some other things going on around the state today too, Corn, in terms of news and notes. And it's another week, so it means another Gamecock football player bolted.
Yeah, that's right. Marquise Roberts, according to GoGamecocks.com, I think John Whittle also reported this as well, the Big Spur. Marquise Roberts is leaving USC football.
All right, yeah, Corn dropped out there. Yeah, Marquise Roberts, the 10th scholarship player to leave the Gamecock program since the end of last season. He played in all 13 games last year, started 6 of them, finished with 31 tackles. He's kind of battled injuries here over his career, but he was a regular player each of the past couple of seasons. I think he was 3rd or 4th on the team in tackles year before last, but he's leaving the Gamecock program, expected to transfer, and they're a complete overhaul. Really, I mean, to say that is an understatement in terms of the defense. Not just new players coming in, but almost, not all of them, but a big chunk of players from that defense from a year ago will not be back on the team next year. Now, another USC football note: signee Shamik Blackshear is disputing the details in a police report that claims he took a safe and purse from a house earlier this month that he just left and didn't say a word. The victim decided not to press charges, but police had enough evidence. The Bluffton High senior with petty larceny been unwilling and not willing to cooperate and talk about the incident. USC has not commented on the arrest and what it could mean for Blackshear's status with the Gamecocks. He's a 4-star defensive end and considered one of the better players on the Gamecocks' recent signing class. So we'll have to see how all of that shakes out for Shamik Blackshear. All right, NFL Combine coming up this week. We'll have a lot of representation from Clemson, South Carolina, Coastal Carolina, and Newberry also putting players in the Combine in Indianapolis this week. We'll go down that full list. And Ray Tanner has a new assignment coming up. We'll talk about that role as well. We're coming up on a break. We've got a few calls on hold. Hang in there. We're going to hit this break. On the other side of the break, we'll bring Corn back in, but we will take phone calls. You have the Sports Talk Pledge. Your phone calls coming up after the break. Sports Talk on a Tuesday night from Columbia and Athens.
Do you hear me now?
I do know you're there, yeah.
Do you hear me? I see y'all now. Yeah, I changed to our hotspot. That off of their wireless. Is this better?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously better than you not being there at all.
Did I, when I was talking earlier, did I just drop out, or did they pick up when I finished my comments?
No, he overran you for about 10 seconds or so. You kept talking, but you didn't realize you were gone. Then all of a sudden you came back, and we're still talking, but he'd already cut in.
So
yeah, he updated all the news and all that stuff.
Jesus. All right, is this okay? How does this? Is this better?
Yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. I mean, we're just in that rough patch of the next 30 minutes.
Well, I'm not on their system anymore. How are we looking?
Coming back in 10. You're still a little choppy. We'll give it a shot here. We got a couple calls, PS.
Okay.
They're almost done at Carolina Stadium. 5-2. Gamecocks on top. It's the top of the ninth inning. 2 outs. Furman down to its last out. I was over there earlier. It was 38 degrees when they threw out the first pitch a few minutes after 4 o'clock. We'll have some post-game from Chad Holbrook coming up later in the program, probably in our second hour. We have phone calls holding. I promised, Corn, I gave the Sports Talk Scouts honor that we were going to take phone calls in this segment. We have Corn back with us now from Stegman Coliseum as well.
Was that the Sports Talk Girl Scout honor or the Cub Scout honor or the
Cub Scout? Yeah, the Cub Scout, Boy Scout, Cub Scout honor.
Boy Scout honor.
Yeah.
Good. That game's gone final 5-2. South Carolina beats Furman, and I can tell you, and you'll hear from Chad Holbrook coming up as well in just a little bit. It is the Gamecocks finishing at 5 runs, 8 hits, an error. Their first error of the season. They left 4. Furman 10-2-0, and it's Clark Schmidt, the freshman, getting the win. He's 1-0. Billy Greenfield takes the loss. He's 0-2, and Brandon Murray, he gets the win for South Carolina. And as far as the offense goes, Elliot Caldwell. What did I say? Yeah, I'm sorry, the save. Elliot Caldwell went 4 for 4, 3 RBIs, had 2 doubles on the day, and he's the only one who had multiple hits. Kyle Martin had a hit. Koch had a hit as well, and so did Gore. Gamecocks had 8 hits on the day. Cone also had a hit. Vogel started when Turge allowed hits, 2 earned runs, struck out 2, walked 1. Schmidt went 4 2/4 hits, no runs, and Murray went 1 2/3, allowed 2 hits, struck out 1, did not walk anybody. So Gamecocks improved to 3-1, and I think they have Northeastern coming in this weekend, right?
Have who coming in this weekend?
I think it's Northeastern.
Yeah. Northeastern coming in. Sorry, the music there was drowning out the question. Yeah, Northeastern is coming in this weekend for 3.
Good.
And Clemson and Charleston Southern tomorrow has been postponed until April 8th. They hope that the upstate will thaw out by then.
Yeah, how bad was it up there? Because where I was in Atlanta, Chamblee area didn't get anything. I know north of Atlanta, up in the mountains, they got a lot of stuff. And then driving over from here to Atlanta, the roads were just fine. In a couple of the counties between Atlanta and Athens, there was a lot of ice and stuff on the trees, a lot of broken, but no snow over in this part of Georgia.
Yeah, and not a lot of snow, mostly ice, but the big thing they're dealing with now are brutally cold temperatures, another cold front making its way this direction, and just not going to be conditions worthy of baseball, so they're going to wait until April and play that game between Clemson and Charleston Southern there at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. All right, Corn, can we roll out, jump to a couple of calls here with unless you have something else cooking at the Steg that we need to get to in the interim?
No, I suggest you roll and jump.
Roll and jump and leap and dive into fun phone calls. Somerville, we know they didn't get any snow or ice. Welcome in, Mike.
Hey, how are you?
Outstanding.
Good. I've got a kind of a bone to pick. I've been listening to y'all for years, every night on the way home from work. And since Coach Martin, and I'm not a Clemson fan or Carolina fan, I'm neutral. I just enjoy sports. But since he, I guess, field dressed or whatever you want to call that reporter, Corn has just been nitpicking the death out of that man. And I've always enjoyed listening to y'all because that's generally something y'all don't do. But, you know, he didn't inherit any real quality players. I actually watched a couple of those.
That's not entirely true. Hang on. That's not entirely true now. Remember, when he came in, he left the door open and pushed out some guys who one in particular has developed into a terrific player at University of Virginia, the second-ranked team in the country.
He didn't push out Anthony Gill was on his way out the door before Frank Martin stepped foot on campus.
Oh, no. Why you say that?
Anthony Gill was going to transfer. They didn't push him out the door. That's not accurate. No, he was already thinking about going back home when Darren Horn was still the coach. That had nothing to do with Frank Martin. You can't put that on him. Anthony Gill was
okay.
They wanted they wanted the kid that went to Florida to stay. They wanted both of those guys to stay. They were recruiting them to stay, but they wanted out. Both of those guys wanted out.
I don't remember it quite that way, K-Mac. You might be right, but I don't remember that there was much of an effort to keep those guys, and there was quite a number of guys, pushed out the door. Some of them probably were not going to become terrific players, but those two in particular might have really helped the program.
And I think they would have loved to have had those guys around, but they chose to leave. Those guys were not pushed out. In fact, they blocked the transfer for the other big man was what was his name? And he flamed out at Florida. Now he ran into some disciplinary problems.
DeMontre Harris. Yeah.
They blocked his transfer to NC State. They wanted him to stay. I mean, they wanted both of those guys to stay. But the rumor with Anthony Gill was he wanted out. That was when Darren Horn was there, and actually Darren Horn helped him find a path to Virginia. That is the way that happened. I've talked to people that were familiar with that. I don't think I'm talking out. I'm not breaking anything here. I think it's been pretty well disclosed. But that's not Frank Martin's fault. So to back the call. Now I don't remember anybody here nitpicking Frank Martin. I think we've been pretty supportive of Frank Martin, and I still think he's going to win. It's just it's a train wreck right now this season.
And y'all have been, but Corn's definitely been nitpicking him ever since that the reporter asked him about the thing, and Martin made the smart, and he was. He made a smart aleck remark about, I'm still worried about my job, in fact, from October or whatever that was. But
Well, I don't disagree with you. I don't think it's nitpicking. I have been critical of Frank Martin at various times during the season when you observe certain things, and it can't always be praise. And when things aren't going well, there's got to be something responsible for the ebb and flow of the team. And, I find it unacceptable that a South Carolina basketball team goes to Kentucky and is completely non-competitive. And his comments after the game were that, his team didn't bring any fight and his team didn't bring this. Well, part of that, if not the majority of that's got to be on coaching. The coaches have to get the players ready to play. You've got days to work with your team and get them physically and mentally ready to play. And if they don't show up, then you should force some other people out of the program then, because then you've got the wrong players playing for you if you can't get your guys motivated to play the number one team in the country. So, to me, that falls back on Martin and the coaching staff. And, yeah, I thought he was out of line with his comments to that, but I don't hold that against him. I'm just going game by game and watching and listening, and I think we've offered up praise when it's been deserving, but we've also pointed out, at least is of concern in the areas of where the team is not improving at this stage in year 3 of his program where it should be.
That I can appreciate and understand, and I agree with what you're saying. That's the informative part that has always been so good about your show.
Well, thanks for the phone call there. Yeah, Corn, I give him a little bit more of a pass going to Kentucky and getting blown out. The bottom line is they're hitting kind of the doldrums of this season, and we'll see how they respond. Last year they got into a little bit of a rock and a hard place. Remember, Frank Martin actually was suspended for a game, and that kind of galvanized them. So maybe they will come together. It's a tall order. This is a pretty good Georgia team they're facing tonight, but they need to finish with a little momentum here going into the SEC tournament and beyond to have a good feeling going into next season, because they don't want an off season of discontent around that basketball program again. Appreciate the phone call. More calls coming up as well. Sports Talk continues from Columbia and Athens.
You broke up on me again there, Corn.
I'm just going to have to frickin' live with it. How bad was it?
You were fine for the majority of the call, but just there towards the tail end, it finally just gave out. So I cut you.
You still have people waiting? Statement, you still got people waiting? Still got people holding?
Yeah, I got one. I'm looking for post.
All right. I think I want to do recruit. I got a lot of recruiting. Let me jump into that here. Coming out of the break, unless we get to the national anthem.
Let's keep it on the phones, 800-956-7266. Tiger Bryan in Lancaster has waited his turn. Welcome in, Tiger Bryan. Brian, you there? Tiger Bryan? Yeah, maybe he had to go eat dinner. That opens up a line, 800-956-7266, as we throw it back to Korn in Athens, who, as we get closer and closer to tip, seems like your line gets a little more suspect, but we hear you, Korn, loud and clear right now.
All right, well, hang in there with me best you can. I just want to comment once more on what we were talking about a second ago, then I'm going to jump into recruiting. I was just going back and reviewing our stories on our website, and don't forget, you had Brian Richardson, you had Eric Smith, you had DeMontre Harris, and you had Anthony Gill all transfer out. Now, you might have said, I don't know how much Martin wanted them or not. Obviously, you say Gill was on his way out even before the coaching change. I can't recall that in my memory bank that was the case, but I'll take your word for it. But the point is that he didn't inherit a team that was barren of players. Had those players all stayed, that would have been a pretty good core to build around. But they did leave, and of course, he had to start over.
DeMontre Harris and Gill, yes. The other two, Richardson, those guys, there's a reason why Darren Horn is now talking on TV and not coaching anymore. He inherited a program that was at rock bottom. They were awful. They had some good players in there, but, Eric Smith didn't even start when he transferred to Coastal Carolina. He came off the bench.
I didn't include Eric Smith in the three that you could build around. I agree that Eric Smith had deteriorated as a major college basketball player.
Yeah, who was the other one you met? Richardson?
Brian Richardson was a usable player. He was, he's a guy that could shoot, something they could use today. I think he would have been he was a pretty highly recruited guy coming out of high school. So either these, either they couldn't be developed by the previous coaching staff or they were misidentified in recruiting.
You seem to think a lot higher of some of those guys than I did. Other than Harrison Gill, I don't think there was anything wrong with most of those guys leaving. And I think but Richardson played for a season or maybe hung around for a season before he left. But I think they have more talent now than when Frank Martin took over the program. I do think they have improved their talent from 1 to 5 and even off the bench. They still are missing a few pieces. I think they showed in December, in the early part of January, what they could be, but they have flamed out for whatever reason, and that's something that Frank Martin's going to have to address and figure out. But I still think they're moving in the right direction. Maybe not as fast as people want, but back to the caller's point, and back to the point that I made in the open, Korn. This is a program that for the better part of 3 decades has been in the rock bottom of college basketball. This is one of the most you know, dubious programs. They're the Chicago Cubs of NCAA basketball. They really are. I mean, they
Well, no, that would actually be Northwestern because Northwestern has never been to the NCAA tournament.
well, okay, then they're the Montreal Expos. So they don't even have a team anymore. They're the Tampa Bay Rays. No, they've been okay. I mean, the Florida Marlins, well, even they've won a couple World Series. Yeah, insert just awful baseball program here.
Yeah, I get you. Nobody's going to claim that South Carolina has a great basketball tradition. I mean, they've hung their hat on the 7-year run of Frank McGuire, but I mean, you know, none of these kids alive today probably know who Frank McGuire was. So, you know, that's only for the long-living Gamecock fans now because that's been so long ago. I mean, what, 1975 was when he finished. I mean, that's what is this? 2015. That'd be that's 40 years ago. So long time to go back to your glory days of college basketball. They had a brief cup of coffee with Eddie Fogler. They had a sip of soda with George Felton, and Dave Odom had a cupcake one year. You know, outside of that, they've had very little.
Well, I do think, and again, you know, Dave Odom. And I think it kind of speaks to the program. He was just treated awful. I mean, and again, if they wanted to upgrade and say, let him right off into the sunset, but he took them to an NCAA tournament and won 2 NIT championships. And those 2 NIT championship teams, those should go down as 2 of the better teams in Gamecock history, really, over the past 30 years. And what was Dave Odom's thanks? They booed him out of the building, literally booed him out of the building. And it's hard to build a program when you're doing that. And Frank Martin, I don't care who you are. Phil Jackson's not going to come in and just wave his fingers and start winning championships at South Carolina. It's going to take time.
Well, the next. All right, how we doing?
You think you can get through recruiting here?
Well, we may have the national anthem coming up here. 2 minutes before. 2 minutes before we hit.
You want to email? How do you want to do this? You want to do it time?
I mean, I could do it coming out of this break, but let me see. Are we going to do the? Probably are. I should probably just send it to you guys.
Okay. And sound like poo as well.
Say what?
You don't sound very well either. You want to just take this call here?
Yeah, I'll send you recruiting.
Okay, Tiger Brian's back.
Let K-Mac take the call. I still have to clean up recruiting.
Let's grab another call here before the top of the hour break. Tiger Bryan is back, all right?
I'm going to the anthem.
Finished running his errands. Hello, Tiger Bryan.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing well, doing well.
Man, I'm going to tell you something, man. I got to defend y'all tonight. Yeah, I got y'all's back on this.
Okay.
That call that y'all was nitpicking about the South Carolina coach or whatever. Hey, I look at it this way. Old Carl Blue, now he be flaking one way over towards South Carolina a lot of times with me. But other than that, y'all straight up, man. Y'all call it like you see it, man.
We try. I mean, we try. I mean, and a lot of people don't like I always tell people when they say, well, you're biased, I'm like, well, who's your team? So you admit you're biased. You have like Gamecock gear, or Clemson gear. Just because our opinions aren't always positive in the way you view your team doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong. But it's a tough, and nobody's sugarcoating anything. It's a tough time for Gamecock basketball. But I've said this, and I still believe it. I think Frank Martin is going to win, and I think he's going to go to the NCAA tournament. I think he's going to win an NCAA tournament game, and I think he's going to do it. And I said this I thought it was going to be a 5-year plan for him, and he's in year 3 of his 5-year plan. I still think by year 5 he's going to have a tournament team and a team that's capable of winning a game in the NCAA tournament. We'll see if I'm wrong or right in 2 years.
That's you can say that, and that's fine. There's no reason. Listen, all it takes is 1 or 2 players to come into your program, and boom, you take off. And maybe P.J. Dozier's going to be that guy. Maybe Chris Silva's going to be that guy. If they get Levi Cook here, maybe they'll have the players necessary. But, I don't know. Right now, I don't see where this team has taken a big step forward from last year, showing the kind of improvement you'd like to see from year 2 to year 3. And I know they had that nice December and everybody was excited, but basketball season continues into January, February, and March. As a coach, that's where you earn your money competing against the teams in your own conference because they know you best. And South Carolina has showed that it's not yet at the point where they can go out and beat teams that know how to play them, and on a regular basis. So, but next year with the guys coming in and the returning fellas and a year of experience and age, they could be a much better team, and we'll see. It's just all speculation. I'm not going to sit here and say it can't be done. It's not impossible. Somebody can step in and do it at some point.
And I think Frank Martin can still do it. But it hasn't happened overnight, but no one really should have expected it to happen overnight. We'll pick this up in the next hour. Also, some Brad Brownell in hour number 2 and some USC baseball postgame, hopefully, in our second hour as well. Sports Talk continues.
Okay. I'm going to, I'll send you recruiting, and then I'll rejoin you at halftime.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Some tweets coming in at SportsTalk SC where you can interact with us in 140 characters or less, or just follow us and see what we have to think. Our 140 character or less thoughts. Dr. Gamecock tweets, I almost ran my car off the road when Phil said Martin inherited talent. Slauson, Smith, Richard, Gathers, Leonard, not D1. I would tend to agree with that comment. And he adds the roster is now way better, adding 2 highly recruited players, NIT next season, NCAA in Sin and Notice's senior year. And I disagree when he says South Carolina's record would be no better with Gill. He would be a senior on this team. I think Gill would have helped this team. He's a very good player inside. He would be a big asset. And I think, some of these games that they've lost by a couple of 3 points, I think he'd be worth a couple of 3 points in those games on both ends of the floor. Even as a freshman, you could tell that kid was going to be a really good player. I mean, he had something. But his situation was, Darren Horn and his staff, to their credit, they got on him early, and he didn't really have any major offers. Now, he signed with the Gamecocks, and then people discovered him. He kind of was a late bloomer, so to speak, and at that point he was already locked in with the Gamecocks. He had already signed, but after his freshman year, he's a Virginia guy. That's where he's from, and that situation worked out for him. I don't think it would have mattered if it was Frank Martin or anybody else. So, to say Frank Martin just ran all those guys off, he ran some off, certainly, after a season. He gave him kind of an open tryout, and then it was, hey, if you want to play, you better go somewhere else, and some guys chose to go elsewhere. But in terms of DeMontre Harris and Anthony Gill, he wanted both of those guys. He would have certainly kept those guys around. Now with Harris, remember, he was all set to go to NC State, and that got a little dicey. There were some accusations that NC State had maybe tampered with him a little bit, talked to him a little soon, so they didn't want that to happen, and he ended up going down to Florida, and that was a bad move for the kid in the long run. He probably should have stuck it out. He could have helped that Gamecock basketball team out as well over the past couple of years, including this year. I mean, he'd be a senior this year. I mean, and those are the kind of guys that you've got to not only land, and you got to keep them. I mean, the Gamecocks have recruited some guys. Even Darren Horn, he recruited some guys that ended up being okay that went elsewhere. I mean, they had Murphy Holloway on campus wearing a uniform in practice for a while, and they couldn't keep him after he sat out the year. He went back to Ole Miss. They had Ramon Galloway on campus, and they told him to get out of town, and he went to Temple and went to the NCAA tournament. So they've got to correct those things, land these guys, keep these guys, develop these guys. That's going to be the key. They're only in year 3. Some of these guys, their key guys are going to be back for another season. They have some good recruiting coming in. Don't write off the program. Maybe the season, but not the program.
Got off to a rough start, called up, and then they spurted away from you. Up at 32. When you guys tied it up at 32,
A good start for the Gamecocks in Athens. They're on an 8-0 run right now. They lead Georgia 12-4. And Hakevichus leading the way. Lamonis with 6 points. Dwayne Notice has a three-pointer, and he has 3. And Ty Johnson also with 3 points for the Gamecocks as they lead 12-4. Remember, South Carolina playing short-handed. No Shamik Shepard, no Demetrius Henry, and they won't have those guys for the remainder of the regular season, suspended for a violation of team rules. Frank Martin says he'll revisit that suspension before the Southeastern Conference tournament next month. All right, let's shift gears over to Clemson hoops. They were in the Peach State last night and played Georgia Tech and lost to the Yellow Jackets for the first time in 10 tries, dating all the way back to 2010. A tough loss for the Tigers, and their NCAA tournament hopes certainly taking a shot. Corn caught up with Brad Brownell after the game to talk about the tough loss.
got off to a rough start, called up, and then they spurted away from you. What was more disappointing to you, the slow start or the fact that you couldn't hang on once you caught up?
Oh, I don't know. I think we didn't feel like we had live legs tonight. I felt like we had heavy legs. I don't know if we looked like a tired team, but we were always playing from behind. We were always a step or two behind the play. You know, I thought when we cut it to 2 at half, after being down 8 a couple times in the first half, that we might have a chance to get ourselves together, kind of regroup. But Georgia Tech played well at the beginning of the second half and put us back on our heels again. And from that point, we just didn't respond. We just didn't have the kind of juice and life. And I thought we took some bad shots in the second half also that contributed. It was frustration basketball instead of trying to out-execute them when we got behind at the end. We just wanted to outshoot it, and that's no way for us to play.
What was their defense doing that made it so difficult for you?
You know, I don't know. I just think they were prepared. They guarded us well, having played twice every year. And you know, I don't know if it was anything in particular. We had some careless turnovers. We had some transition situations where we had, 3 situations where we had numbers in transition and didn't get anything out of it. Obviously, a big play was Jordan stealing the ball and coming down one-on-one and then losing the ball, and it ended up being a layup for them. And I think maybe it was a 2 or 4 point game at the time. That was a huge swing, kind of put us right back in our place again. And we just had some wasted possessions that you really need to convert, especially on the road.
Seemed like their guards did a really good job off the dribble, getting down deep and either getting to the basket or dishing it off.
They did. You know, I didn't think our ball screen defense, which is usually a very good strength of ours, was very good tonight. I thought for whatever reason, we just didn't have the kind of life and the kind of attention to detail, the focus that you need. And Ryan's guys were very confident tonight and played at a high level, and they're very physical on the glass, and they just got the ball to the paint way too much.
All right, what do you say to you guys now? You got to go to Duke on Saturday, and what do you say to get them back right for that trip?
Well, we're a tired team right now. We'll take some of these guys will take 2 days off. We'll bring some of the younger guys in and guys that don't play as much, and they'll work out on Wednesday a little bit. But we have some guys that just need rest. They've played a lot of games. This was another, I don't remember if it was 4 and 8 days or whatever it was. It just feels like we got some guys that need to kind of regroup, take a deep breath, relax, get our minds right, and get focused and want to go compete again.
All right. Brad Brownell and Korn talking about the loss last night against Georgia Tech. Let's keep it inside the locker room. Korn caught up with Austin Ajukwa and broke down the loss with him.
When you guys tied it up at 32, how did you feel about where the game was at that point? Did you think you guys might be able to keep it going and pull this thing out?
I mean, I thought we could. I mean, we're a tough team, so I thought we were gonna be able to pull off the win. But credit Georgia Tech for keeping their foot on the pedal and not really letting us get back into our flow, or getting into a flow really at all. So I mean, they kept their foot on the pedal and never let us really get a lead the whole game. So.
Coach Brownell said you guys did not really have a lot of legs, it seemed to him. You didn't do a good job on your ball screen defense. Could you sense that early on it was going to be that kind of a night?
I mean, not really. I mean, that's not really something, players should sense. But, I mean, we do have some tired players. We've had a couple turnaround games. Like, we just played Saturday and we're playing today. So, we don't play till Saturday. So, we're going to get some rest and be ready to play on Saturday. Hopefully, we don't make the same mistakes.
What did you think of their guards on the offensive side, the way it seemed like they could get to where they wanted to in the paint and then either get to the rim or dish it off?
I mean, their guards were being very aggressive tonight. They were putting us back on our heels, really, making us. They weren't being passive at all. They were being aggressive the whole game. So, and that's a good reason why that's a good part of why they won the game.
All right, you get to go to Duke on Saturday. It's a fun trip in terms of going to a great arena, but not a lot of fun to play the Blue Devils. Just your thoughts on regrouping from this and getting ready to be able to put on a good performance on Saturday.
Yeah, we got to put this game behind us and use it as a learning experience, and then get a day of rest, and then come ready to practice all week and get ready to play at Cameron because we're trying to get a win.
All right, and the Tigers now will have to regroup and turn around and go to Durham, Cameron Indoor, and take on a top 5 Duke team on Saturday. So they are going to be in for a rough trip there, potentially, and their hopes of making the NCAA tournament, I would say, are pretty small at this stage in the game. Losing that game last night was a costly blow. They had a small margin of error if you were Clemson already, but that kind of closes the door. But you never say never. I mean, they could get on a run, win some big games. A win in Durham Saturday would erase that loss. That would be a quality win. Nobody's going to predict that. I'm certainly not, but maybe they can pull something off there. All right, a couple of other things to pass along that we didn't get to in the first hour in terms of notes. USC Athletics Director Ray Tanner was selected as one of 3 new members of the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee. We're talking baseball here. Tanner, of course, served 16 years as head coach of the Gamecock program, won a couple of national championships. He's going to begin his new position on that Tournament Selection Committee in July, or actually the 2015-2016 academic year. Tanner will be on the committee, joining the committee with Maryland Athletics Director Kevin Anderson and TCU Athletics Director Chris Del Conte. So there's that. And the NFL Scouting Combine cranks up this week in Indianapolis. 7 players from Clemson will be there, 5 from USC. Clemson has defensive end Vic Beasley, linebacker Stephon Anthony, defensive linemen Grady Jarrett, Tavares Barnes, and Corey Crawford, defensive back Gary Peters, and punter Bradley Pinion. USC has quarterback Dylan Thompson, offensive lineman A.J. Cann, running back Mike Davis, defensive tackle J.T. Surratt, and tight end Rory Anderson. Also, Coastal Carolina is sending offensive lineman Chad Hamilton to the Combine, and Newberry linebacker Edmund Robinson will be at the Combine this week. Let's check in on the USC-Georgia game in Athens. Kornblut is there, and we'll have an update from him at the half of this game. And what a start for South Carolina. I mean, this game had trouble written all over it, really, from the beginning, from before the beginning, when the announcement of 2 suspended players for the Gamecocks and Demetrius Henry and Shameik Shepherd came down. They already didn't have their backup point guard, Marcus Stroman, because of an illness, but pay no attention to the issues off the court. The Gamecocks are on fire on it. They lead 22-6. Maybe they should just play Georgia 10 times a year. Maybe that's the problem. They handed it to Georgia and Columbia a few weeks ago, and Georgia didn't have Marcus Thornton in that game. They do have Marcus Thornton in this one, although you wouldn't know it. He hasn't scored yet halfway through the first half. The Gamecocks, Dwayne Notice has hit a pair of three-pointers, both that he shot, and he has 8 points to lead the way right now for the Gamecocks. Akevicius with 6, Ty Johnson with 5. Sindarius Thornwell still hasn't scored, and the Gamecocks have a 22-6 lead. So a very good start for the Gamecocks. 4 of 9 from 3. You know, you've been waiting for one of those games where they're just hitting everything they put up. We've seen the games where they're, you know, they can't hit the broadside of the barn. They can't hit the ocean with water, but they're finally finding a game where they're finding the back of the rim and the net. 4 of 9 from 3 for the Gamecocks. 8 of 15 overall, 53% from the floor. They lead 24-6, an 18-point lead for the Gamecocks. Coming up after the bottom of the hour break, we will listen in to some post-game from the USC baseball win over Furman, 5-2 the final there, as the Gamecocks knock off the Paladins, and we'll hear from Gamecock head coach Chad Holbrook. It was cold. I was out there for the first half of that game. I shot back over here to do the show, of course, but certainly it was a chilly game. 38 degrees at game time. 38 degrees, cloudy, winds out of the north at 4 miles an hour, the official weather forecast at the beginning of that game. I think I counted a couple hundred diehard, and I mean real diehard fans that were in the stands for that one. But the Gamecocks get the win 5-2, so they are 3-1 on the season. And I think there were a couple of other in-state games. I know Coastal Carolina was playing this afternoon. Let me see. I was trying to find the scoreboard. The D1Baseball.com has a new slick scoreboard that I have not quite mastered how to get around it the way I used to be able to master getting around there.
I'm going to miss the old poverty setup they had for years and years.
I know.
It's the best baseball site out there, but I love the old school 1998
I know,
setup.
the beta site, it was just like, oh, this is still pretty good. I'm making it through now. Georgia Tech is beating Georgia Southern. Okay, I've figured this out now. By the way, Georgia Tech won nothing in that game, but it's pretty much the same. It's just nicer. Coastal Carolina did play today. They lost to Canisius 14-3, and let's see if anybody else in the Big South that we care about played. They did not. Let's go down to the Southern Conference and see if anybody else we care about played today. The Citadel was postponed against North Florida because of inclement weather in the North Florida area, so that game did not go off. So that's pretty much it from the baseball standpoint. We have recruiting coming up as well. That we'll do after we listen in on Chad Holbrook. My thoughts on what I saw. That was my first chance to watch the Gamecock baseball team play. And, how much do you learn in 5 innings in a February game when it's 38 degrees outside? Not much, but, I think Chad Holbrook likes his group, and for good reason. They have some guys up and down their lineup that are pretty good. I'm waiting to see Max Schrock. If he can stay healthy, his problem, no one has ever questioned his potential. The issue with Max Schrock has been, can he stay healthy? He has been, it's been one thing after another. He's been a walking, really the poster child for, Red Cross, ankle, back, neck. He's had all sorts of things. Even remember last year, the guy could barely run, but he would come off the bench and club a home run and then stiff leg it all the way around the bases. That's what kind of talent he has. They need to keep him healthy in the middle of that lineup. I mean, he was a number 3 hitter his freshman year. That's what kind of talent he had. But if he can stay healthy, if they can stay healthy in that lineup, I like them quite a bit. Now they're pitching, how it's going to work out in the back end of that bullpen, that's always a question as well. But a pretty good-looking team and a pretty good start for the Gamecocks at 3-1. All right, back to your phone calls and other things. I'm going to delay the Chad Holbrook post game from USC's win. We're going to, get warmer here, and it's been freezing. We've got, half the state frozen, winter weather advisory, baseball games being canceled. Let's go down to sunny old Florida, where it's almost always warm, in Daytona. Chip Weil joining us now, Darlington Raceway president, and our Sports Talk segments with Chip back. That means one thing: NASCAR is back, and Sunday, the Daytona 500. How you doing, man?
Good, except it's not sunny today. It's been raining all afternoon, this has been the only free afternoon I have all week, and I've had to stay in the motorhome, so no fun.
That is not fun. Is it at least a little bit warmer down there?
Oh, it's definitely a lot warmer. I talked to my wife in Florence today, and she said that there was no chance that she was going to get outside. It was way too cold. So I didn't want to tell her that it's 75 degrees because I probably would be looking for a really good divorce lawyer.
Well, I mean, it's such a great lead up to this race, speed weeks and the shootout. Well, I guess it's not called the shootout now. It's called the what's it called? The
duel. The duel.
Well, yeah, the duels are this week. But what was Saturday night's race?
The Unlimited.
The Unlimited. Yeah, the Unlimited. Now I still want to call it the old Bud Shootout. I got to get it. I got to get all my sponsors in order. And of course, Jeff Gordon wins it, so all the conspiracy theorists will come out and say, of course he did. His last full season, he's going to win the pole at Daytona.
Yeah, but if you look at the new format, it would have been impossible for them to make that up or make sure it happened. Obviously, with the new format of Daytona, some drivers were a little upset and expressed their displeasure to the media and to NASCAR. But you know what? I think the new format is exciting. Certainly doesn't showcase the cars and the hard work that all the crews put in the off-season and single-car speed, but the fans like to see that pack racing. They like to see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars in a pack trying to get over 200 miles an hour. So I think they accomplished this. Certainly some of these drivers don't like it as much, but you know what? A little bit of controversy isn't so bad.
Yeah, I mean, there was some controversy. Some of the drivers just kind of staying in until the end of it. I mean, it looks like there are some room for potential tweaks to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a place like Darlington, it really works.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember working on the team side. We spent a lot of time in January tweaking and massaging and trying to find that extra little bit of speed. And everybody at the shop, took pride in doing that. And you come down here on Sunday afternoon and do single car qualifying. Everybody at the shop was proud of what they were able to accomplish. And so that's gone. And there is something to be said for that. But at the same time, it's a new day with a new car, and we got to keep up. And that the group qualifying seems to work everywhere else. So I think you could go either way down here. I think you could go back to single car qualifying, but if you look at the ratings, the overnights, we were up 22% year over year. So certainly people were tuning in on Sunday afternoon on Fox.
Yeah, and I think you're always trying to evolve and stay with the times and stay ahead of the curve. And I think, just as a casual fan, I was more interested last year than I probably have been recently with the playoff format and some of the new tweaks. It took a little while to figure it out, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the word we've been using all winter is momentum.
Mm-hmm.
We gained a lot of momentum in 2014 as a sport. Certainly, we couldn't have scripted a better ending. Coming down to all the 4 drivers all running in the top 5 or 6 with a handful left to go at Homestead battling for the championship, and we carry that momentum into the off season, which sometimes you lose a little bit, and then we roll into 2015, and there just is a sense of excitement down here, getting the season kicked off, and everybody seems to be in a good mood. So far so good. We're only on Tuesday of race week, but a lot going on, and certainly glad to be down here.
And of course, the duel's coming up Thursday, and I know Junior's going to have to start in the back, a little inspection issue there. But Daytona's one of those tracks where starting in the back isn't that big of a deal. It seems like, relatively speaking, he'd rather be up front, but you could do worse.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter where you start down here. It really is a matter of who you get hooked up with and how you can create, either with a teammate or something else, a commitment to being together and racing together and pushing each other throughout the race. I always say 3/4 of the race for the Daytona 500, the first 3/4 is finding your friends. The last 3/4 is getting to the front.
Yeah.
So you got to work with folks. You got to earn that trust with them that you're not going to leave them and you're going to push each other and stick together to the end. And then that last fourth of the race, you guys push your way to the front. So I'm not worried about Junior starting in the back. He'll be fine. And the car's really going to be where it's going to be interesting is watching the Go Homers, the 21, the 26, all these cars that are they're mid-pack cars. They're going to get hooked up with some really good cars during the duels, and they know they got to perform. They don't have any points to fall back on. So I think the Thursday night's going to be really exciting.
Now, there aren't any trained assassins following around Kurt Busch, are there? I'm worried about his safety.
Not that I know, but I've been wrong a time or two.
I mean, how could you make something like that up? I want to believe the guy. I'm just worried. I hope he, if I see a red dot on his car going around the track, I'm going to be very worried for him. You talked about Jeff Gordon. We know he's got a good team, a good car this week. Who are some other guys that have kind of stood out so far at Speed Weeks?
I think the 19 car, Carl Edwards, he moved over to Joe Gibbs Racing. New team, no points, came down here and has already locked himself into the 500 based on his speed. So that's really important for that team, knowing that they needed to do that early in the week. But they seem to be fast both in the Unlimited and during qualifying on Sunday. So they certainly are impressive. The 20 obviously winning the race on Saturday night. Joe Gibbs Racing had a tough year last year, and they seem to have come out of the box pretty strong. Also look at all the Fords. The Fords seem to be the cars or the manufacturer that really has had a lot of speed. And even though they didn't get the pole, they seem to have speed in practice and in the qualifying session. So I'd look for the Roush Fenway guys to be strong. You can be really fast, but you got to keep yourself out of trouble. So those, and then the Stuart Haas guys and gals, they all seem to be really strong. The Ford car certainly seems to be picking up where they left off in November with a lot of speed in their car, and Tony Stewart seems to have a little bit of a resurgence, which is exciting. We need Tony to have a good year.
Yeah.
It's good for the sport for Tony to be back. So, I think it's the usual suspects, but it'll be good to see those Fords, and then certainly good to see Carl Edwards having success early in his new foray over at Joe Gibbs Racing.
Outstanding. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you Tuesday, and we'll find out who won the big race.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Outstanding. Chip Wild, president of Darlington Raceway from Daytona, where the weather down there is crummy as well, but hopefully by Thursday and Sunday it'll be good stuff from there. All right, let's jump into some recruiting while we have a couple of minutes. Might have to carry it over to the other side, but I want to get into the recruiting report. USC has positioned itself nicely with tight end Nasir Upshur of Philadelphia. His good friend and former teammate is Gamecock running back David Williams. Upshur visited USC last season for the Georgia game, and he's been high in the Gamecock since. But he is looking hard at others. He'll visit Maryland this coming week and plans to take visits to Florida, Miami, and Arizona State, along with a return trip to USC. Upshur said he's in regular contact with USC recruiter G.A. Mangus. Some of his other offers: Arizona, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Rutgers, Tennessee, Penn State, Ohio State, North Carolina, Michigan, Michigan State, Auburn, and Florida State. Offensive lineman Tyler Pritchett, 6'2", 288 out of Auburn, Alabama, is already a hotly recruited prospect. 16 offers on the board. USC jumped on several weeks ago. Clemson joined the list Monday. Some others: Mississippi State, Kentucky, Arizona, Missouri, North Carolina, Cincinnati, and Indiana. How does Auburn not offer in their backyard? He has a top 5 of USC, Indiana, North Carolina, Missouri, and Louisville. No order there. He went the junior day at Mississippi State this past weekend. He's expecting a Florida offer in the next couple of days and could go there sometime soon after that offer. And he was impressed with South Carolina on the junior day. And the Tigers, in terms of Auburn, they have been recruiting him since the 8th grade, but have not offered to this point. No favorite at this point for Pritchett. More recruiting and Chad Holbrook coming up after the break.
Hey, you there? Hello. I ain't gonna hold. It dropped. And it dropped.
Well, we're not quite done with recruiting. We got to run a little Chad, Corn.
Oh, you're gonna do me before you do Chad.
Okay.
We're going to halftime here in 20 seconds, so when he comes back, bring me up, and then he can go back and finish recruiting. Because we should talk about this. Oh, my. 41-23 at the half. Unbelievable. Oh. Well, some bluebirds. Bluebirds at Stegeman. Let's see him. You with me?
Yeah, we're coming back in 20 here.
Sound pretty good? Solid enough?
Yep.
Okay. They have came back. Come on back to me, and I got some things to say. We'll do something on this first half, and then get back into recruiting. Y'all can do Chad in the last segment.
All right, stand by.
All right, they've reached the half. Wow, USC all over Georgia. Let's check in with Corn, get the details.
Yeah. I'm not sure the Gamecocks can play much better. They did it on both ends of the court, 41-23. One of those games came back where everything is falling. They're hitting threes at the buzzer. Notice has hit a off-balance toss shot. They're D'ing up Georgia once again. You know, in the first game of the meeting, they held Georgia to 11 baskets, 22% shooting. Tonight, Georgia's shooting 25%. They've made 8 baskets. They're shooting 33%. They've made 8 baskets. USC is shooting 58%, 14 of 24. Notice has 12. Johnson has 11. Hakavicius has 6. He's 3 for 3. Scored those baskets early. And Cashinus has 5. Thornwell has 4, but he also has 6 rebounds and 3 assists. So he's doing other things besides scoring. He scored his 4 points late. Charles Mann, who's always been a thorn in the Gamecock side, he's got 11 for Georgia. He's been their one real offensive weapon here. So South Carolina built the early lead, and they have built on it here as the half has progressed and showing no signs right now of yielding. They're up 41-23. Now, going back to our conversation about coaches and players leaving and what Frank Martin inherited, I was listening to what you were saying, and, of course, you had nobody there to rebut you. I'll say this. You know, I don't know what the situation was with, in particular, and I'm talking about Gill and Harris and Richardson. Forget Eric Smith, okay? He was never much of a player at South Carolina. I'm not talking about him, but the other 3 were good to serviceable players.
No.
All right, let me talk before you interrupt me, because it's hard here. It's hard for me to talk when you interrupt me. So, especially with this setup. So, you know, I don't know if Frank ran them off, but they were there when he got there. So what I'm saying, in my opinion, is he did not inherit a situation where the cupboard was totally bare. Maybe he could have done more to keep these guys, or maybe they were so upset over their coach being fired that they were going to leave no matter what. I wasn't privy to the conversations, neither were you. I'm not saying he ran them off. I'm saying perhaps he could have done more to keep them, and that would have given him a better start. And I'll point this out to you as well. This is Martin's 49th SEC game as head coach at South Carolina. He's 12-36 through 48 SEC games. Darren Horn, through 48 SEC games, you know, the coach that you despise, 21-27 in SEC play through 48 games.
Unlike Frank Martin.
Hang on, K-Mac, let me talk. And Dave Odom was 19-29 in his first 48 SEC games. We're comparing apples to apples here. We're talking SEC games, your first 48, and the other two coaches' records clearly better than Martin's.
Not apples to apples, first of all.
It is apple to apple.
Darren Horn inherited
the SEC game.
Okay, you're telling me that Frank Martin inherited the same type of team that Darren Horn did. That's what you're telling me. Devin Downey, Buck Frederick.
I'm saying no. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you what the numbers are. But I'm saying too that Frank Martin possibly could have had better players in his first year if he had if he had done what was necessary to keep Anthony Gill and Richardson and Harris. That might have given them a nice core to build around.
Well, that's fair. I mean, I think it's unfair to blame him for guys that transfer before he's coached the game. I think that's extremely unfair to put that on him and say, well, he should have done more to keep those guys there. I don't think that is a fair thing to put on a coach. You know, that's not what you inherit. He didn't inherit those guys. They left before he coached a single game. He left before they had a single practice.
All right, so I'll give you that, but you know, if
you season and then left, then you can say that. That's not fair.
If you're a player and you have a coaching change and you're not getting the vibe from the new coach and the feeling that you are wanted, or that he's not willing to adjust some things to fit your playing style, then you hit the road. That's somewhat on the incoming coach and the incoming staff as well. Of course, they can wipe the slate clean and start over. All I'm pointing out is that they had some players available to them that they perhaps could have kept. One more thing before I got to go, and you jump back into recruiting. I'm going to mention a recruiting note that I just saw. John Simpson, the offensive lineman at Fort Dorchester, was offered today by Alabama. So you can add that to your recruiting notes.
Okay. All right. Recruiting notes. Yeah. We'll get back into those. We wanted to run some Chad Holbrook. I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll post that on the website. He might get bumped to the web because we do want to finish the recruiting notes and more here as we wrap things up on Sports Talk.
All right, I'm going to drop her here. You all good? I'm going to drop it here. You need me? Or do you want me to talk? Do we want to come back and talk some more about the second half after he finishes recruiting? All right, I'll stay. Thank you.
Okay, some more recruiting. And again, we posted a link to the baseball post-game audio at sportstalksc.com. You can check it out there. Just crunch for time. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around how we're blaming Frank Martin for guys transferring before he coached a single game. He could have done more, I guess, to keep Anthony Gill and DeMontre Harris. Oh, and I guess Richardson now, in hindsight, was a good player. Goodness gracious. All right, Corn will be back with us tomorrow. We can pick this up tomorrow. But right now, Frank Martin getting it done as the Gamecocks are rolling in Athens right now. Defensive back Nick McLeod of South Point made an unofficial visit to USC Friday. He's not been offered by the Gamecocks, but is drawing interest from there. He also has an offer from Appalachian State. Running back Elijah Holyfield of Atlanta, he's the son of the champ, Evander Holyfield, made an unofficial visit to USC Monday. USC is one of over 30 offers for Holyfield, who has not narrowed his list yet, and his father is all ears for a program that is interested in his son's services. Get it, Pope? All ears? Mike Tyson won't spit off of Evander Holyfield's ears. That's the punchline of the joke. USC offered last week to Levanta Taylor. He's an athlete out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. 2017 defensive back Brian Edwards of Hollywood, Florida, is a Louisville commitment, but is also strongly considering Clemson and Miami. And if I was him, I would back off that Louisville commitment as soon as possible. USC offered 2017 athlete Carlito Gonzalez of Stone Mountain, Georgia. Defensive lineman Aquan Jones of Evanston, Illinois. A USC target was offered yesterday by Michigan. USC offered Austin Mack of Fort Wayne, Indiana yesterday. He's a wide receiver. Defensive lineman Aaron Thompson of Fort Lauderdale has Clemson, Miami, and Pitt at the top of his list of over 22 offers. Clemson has offered defensive back Jamel Cook of Miami. USC offered Oklahoma commitment offensive lineman John DeLance of Mesquite, Texas. And quarterback Shane Busanel of Zephyr Hills, Florida, committed to Charleston Southern for the 2015 class. Clemson and USC have offered defensive back Savion Smith of Bradenton, Florida, and he'll visit LSU this weekend. USC and Clemson have offered offensive lineman Luke Elder of LaGrange, Georgia, and visited Georgia Tech and Ole Miss last week. Some basketball news, USC target 6'10 Levi Cook has set official visits with Pittsburgh and Missouri. He said he still has strong interest in the Gamecocks, has not set up a visit to USC yet. We mentioned that note last night. Clemson is showing interest in 6'7 Caleb Hollander of Nashville and 6'7 Matt Raftery of Darien, Illinois, committed to Furman, according to Comcast Sports Net. All these recruiting notes and more at sportstalksc.com. Also, go Gamecocks for your USC-specific recruiting. Go upstate.com as well. That's going to do it from here in Columbia. For Corn in Athens, Pope behind the glass. Get well soon, Pro. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, here on Sports Talk. Go out and have yourself a great Tuesday night. Full recap of the USC-Georgia basketball game, including audio and a video recap from Corn at sportstalksc.com. Have a great night.